Today's video will show how to UV unwrap. First, I'll explain why UV mapping is necessary. The term UV refers to the coordinate system used to map 2D textures onto 3D surfaces. In this system, U represents the horizontal axis, V represents the vertical axis, allowing textures to be accurately applied in Substance and other 3D texturing tools, ensuring they fit and align correctly on the model. Firstly, make sure we're in the modeling settings in the menu. Then, in the top options, we can find UV. Click on UV to enter the UV editor, where we will see the UVs in their current chaotic state. Find the UV toolkit and drag it to a suitable position, ensuring we can clearly see the UVs and the grid display on the tabletop. When UV mapping, it's crucial to ensure that all grid squares are square-shaped. This is because square UV grid squares ensure that the texture mapping on the model is uniform and accurate. These squares represent different parts of the model's surface, and by mapping 2D textures onto these UV grids, we can provide the model with color, patterns, and details. Alright, now we can expand all the tools in the UV toolkit. Inside the UV editor, hold down the right mouse button and select the UV shell. Select all the UV faces and then click on Automatic. This will display the result of automatic UV unwrapping, but we need to be aware that it may cause issues such as texture stretching, uneven texel density, and lack of precise control over the UV layout. The UVs here are now properly set without any issues. So we can click on Unfold. This tool is used to help adjust and optimize the UV faces, making them more uniform and organized and improving the rendering quality. Select Orient Shell from the drop-down to adjust the orientation of the shell, controlling the direction and alignment of the UVs, ensuring they are oriented correctly for texture mapping. Unfold the remaining shells in the same way as before and orient the shell to the appropriate direction. The top part of the table is in the automatic layout style. Another very effective method for UV is the camera-based approach. If we isolate Select to closely examine the object, we might want a distinct texture differentiation between the tabletop and its side edges. The UV shell provided by Automatic may not offer the texture distinction we desire, so we can right-click to enter Edge mode and cut out the tabletop and UV its shell separately. Hold down the Shift key and select all the edge loops. Click on Cut to separate these two parts into two separate shells. When the cut is successful, you'll see a white line indicating that the cut has been made in the UV. Select these lines on the side of the table and cut them. Here, I'll intentionally make multiple cuts because we'll encounter how to resolve accidentally making too many cuts. After unfolding, you'll see 4 rectangles of varying lengths. For the lower half of the table, repeat the previous steps by selecting the edges and cut them. Hold the right mouse button to enter UV shell mode, then select all and click on Unfold. When we unfold, move each of these shells apart, rather than laying on top of each other. Now, let's talk about what to do when you accidentally cut an edge. First, select the mistakenly cut edge. Then click on Stitch Together to merge these two parts. You'll see the cut white line disappear, indicating the UV shell has been merged into one. Continue to stitch together these edges, reducing wasted texture space and ensuring that textures apply seamlessly across the model. Using orient shells to align the entire rectangle in a parallel manner ensures that the squares on the UV grid are horizontally aligned with the overall UV layout. The benefit of this adjustment is that during subsequent texture mapping processes, the texture will be presented more neatly and accurately. This helps to avoid issues like texture skewing or distortion caused by irregular UV layouts, ensuring consistent and high-quality visual results. We can see a more pronounced adjustment and movement of the UV grid to maintain horizontal alignment. Then use the Layout tool, which automatically finds the optimal UV space arrangement to achieve maximum savings. For this section, using the same method, with the Automatic tool, quickly view the layout of the entire UV unwrap. Since the texture for this part will remain consistent, all we need to do is ensure that all UV layouts are square. After confirming and checking, select all the previously completed UV parts and use the Layout tool to find the most optimized spatial arrangement. Of course, you can also identify and fill in the gaps on this basis, or make adjustments yourself to achieve a better layout effect. When encounter messy UVs, don't panic. Here, directly use the automatic function to visualize the UV layout. Select all, then use Unfold Along. Utilize Orientate to rotate and maintain horizontal alignment, and quickly tidy up the UVs. Seeing that everything is now in squares indicates that there won't be any issues with the texture mapping on this part. This example illustrates a situation where the UV is problematic, that the shape of the square is completely distorted. So, using Automatic can quickly help us resolve this issue. When working with UVs, always remember to continuously check them to minimize UV errors. This prevents the need for repeated adjustments after importing into tools like Substance Painter. Use the same method as before, unfold, then unfold along, and finally layout. The next part is the table legs. Select both of these table legs. The textures for both legs will be identical, and the modeling for these two legs is also exactly the same. Therefore, we can UV both together to save time. Due to the identical modeling of these two objects, they are labeled on top of each other. When we separate these two parts, we can use the Stack tool to layer them vertically. The biggest advantage of doing this is to save UV space. When we require two completely identical textures, using the Stack method is a very efficient approach. Select the Isolate Select feature to view the entire object more clearly. In this clear view, we can adjust the UVs more accurately. Using the same method, select these faces and click Unfold to unfold the UVs. Then, use the Orient Shells tool to adjust and optimize the orientation and layout of the UVs. This adjustment ensures a more uniform and organized UV layout, making the subsequent texture mapping process smoother and more efficient. After finishing the UVs for the two supports behind the table, the UV mapping for the entire model is now complete. Right-click to choose UV shell, then select all UVs, and finally click the Layout button to complete the UV mapping for this model. The entire UV mapping process has now been fully completed. After finalizing the UV layout, you can proceed more seamlessly with texture mapping and material rendering. We hope this video provides clear guidance and insights, helping you better understand the process and significance of UV layout. In the subsequent stages of production, we will further utilize ZBrush for detailed sculpting and employ Substance Painter for high-quality texture painting and rendering. Hope you enjoy it.